On today's World Insight, an outlook on China's economy and tech innovation as the 14th National People's Congress concludes. Details from Tian Xuan, a deputy to the 14th National People's Congress, who's the chair of the Tsinghua University National Institute of Financial Research. And China's competitive edge in providing renewable power worldwide. How tech innovation leads to advanced solar kits from the chairman of the world's leading solar supplier, LONGi.
Welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Xuan. China remains committed to innovation to diversify growth with new productive forces as the third session of the 14th National People's Congress wrapped up in Beijing on Tuesday. In 2024, China's national high-tech zones contributed over 24% of the country's economy. The digital economy's core industries rose to about 10% of national GDP. While innovation has enabled China's economic transition, local and external challenges persist. Looking forward, how can China remain resilient? And what's next for the government? I asked Tian Xuan, a deputy to the 14th National People's Congress, who's the chair of the Tsinghua University National Institute of Financial Research. Professor Tian, so good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Now, there has been a lot of talk of innovation in China.
Right.
And how to match the funding with the future growth of innovation.
Yeah.
Can you help us to understand the characteristics of innovations recently that you have paid attention to?
Sure. Actually, you know what? In the past Spring Festival holidays, some very important innovation output or products actually come out, which attract a lot of attention, like DeepSeek, like Unitree, right? And also, these are the technological innovation. We also have some, like the culture innovation, like the movie Naja, Naja 2, right? It's certainly this innovation comes from the private sector. Sure, Chinese government actually spend a lot of money and effort trying to promote, to boost technological innovation, and they have done a lot of things. The central government, local governments, different levels of governments have government guided funds, which invest billions, thousands of billions of dollars, renminbi into these entrepreneurial forms. But certainly, actually, they generate a lot of output. That's for sure. But I guess the government's role is not necessarily to provide money. Of course, providing funding is a very important function, a very important methods the governments could use to promote technological innovation and entrepreneurship. However, besides that, actually the government can do a lot more. For example, they can nurture an ecosystem for innovation, in the sense that we need a culture of tolerance for failure, right? Because this innovation is exploration of unknown methods and approaches. The whole process is very long, is idiosyncratic and unpredictable with very high risk of failure. So the governments actually need to promote a culture that is failure tolerant, like the legal system, or the financial markets, something like that, to tolerate for failure. Now, another thing is that we need to have a very a healthy legal system, which can protect these entrepreneurs or protect these innovators.
So one of the important goals of National People's Congress, in which you are a delegate of, do you see some of the top priorities on your list as a deputy of the NPC this time for boosting some of the areas you just talked about?
Sure. Actually, as a deputy to the NPC, our job, as you described correctly, is to provide proposals, provide suggestions, and monitor the government's
implementation,
and actually provide feedbacks. This is a sort of a loop, a closed form loop to improve the performance of the government. Actually, in the last year, I submitted some suggestions and already get some good feedbacks. For example, to increase the regulation, to increase the strength of the regulation of the stock market. And I think in this year, as an observer, I already have seen some measures have been implemented. For example, we have, my understanding is that we are going to have a moderately loose monetary policy, plus a more proactive fiscal policy. This combination, you know what? This combination.
These are like secret codes in China's financing.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, based on my knowledge, this combination, we have different monetary policy and the fiscal policy sort of discriminations, right? But this combination, the monetary loose monetary policy plus more proactive fiscal policy, this combination is the very first time in the history, which means that the central government wants to have a more aggressive economic policy to boost the economy.
Have we seen the result yet?
Actually, this is what we are going to observe in these year's 2 sessions. But based on my understanding, in terms of more proactive fiscal policy, we are going to increase the deficit rate. Historically speaking, we have a sort of 3% of the red line. We typically do not want to cross the 3% of the red line. But the government already announced that we are going to increase the deficit rate, which means it may be increased to 3.5%, 4%, or even higher of the deficit rate, which means the central government is going to increase their spending on the manufacturing, infrastructure, or some other sectors, even helping to reduce local debt issues, to help these real estate companies, troubled real estate companies, or even boost local demand. In terms of the, we call them moderately loose monetary policy, based on my understanding, this is a sort of a more aggressive monetary policy. Right. So the government, the PBC, the People's Bank of China, is going to reduce the interest rate, which can help reduce the financial costs of companies and households. It will also reduce the reserve ratio rate, which is going to provide more liquidity to the financial markets. So, of course, this is something to be happened in months to come. It hasn't happened yet, but my conjecture is that it's going to happen very quickly.
If policies like that were implemented, what do you make of the timeline with which that those policies would make an impact on the real growth of the economy? And not to mention building more confidence and vitality of the economy. Right. Is it going to be half a year, 1 year, or 2 years?
Well, I guess different policies may have different different effects, outcomes at different time zones. For example, some policies I just mentioned, which was announced last September, it had immediate effect on the stock market, right? The stock market, boosted, within days, 1 day, 2 days. In terms of the fiscal policy, like we increase the deficit rate, we are going to issue more ultra long-term debt and also more local government debt. The effect, it takes time. It takes some time, especially when we do investment in these national strategic projects and also projects which matters for the company's national security. It certainly takes some time. But for the monetary policy, the timeline is much shorter because once you reduce the reserve ratio requirement, for example, trillions of renminbi is going to be, infused into the capital market.
Right.
So we will observe more liquidity in the financial market. If the government reduce the interest rate by, for example, 20 or 30 basis points, our mortgage rate is going to be reduced, right? The company's financial cost is going to be reduced, which can boost the company's investment activities and generate more economic output. So different policies have different effects.
Generally speaking, would you expect the outcome of a comprehensive set of policies, as you mentioned, both fiscal and also monetary, to make an impact on the Chinese economy, real growth? What is likely to be the timeline? I know it's a little bit difficult to predict, but what is your hope?
Last year, the GDP, China's GDP was already 135, right? Almost 135 trillion yuan. Even 1% is a lot, right? So, I guess with this monetary policy and the fiscal policy, the combination, if we can increase the GDP goals to the target, like around 5%, that's a big success.
If it is real growth, indeed.
The real goals.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would like to add a little bit more. In terms of economic goals, we don't want to just look at the number of the GDP goals. We also want to look at the people's feeling, right? People's life, their standard living of standards. If we have these all kinds of more proactive policies, we provide more money, we reduce the cost, we can help our Chinese economic structure to transformation, to transfer to help the economic structure transformation, help to improve people's livelihood, and also can promote technological innovation. Then it's something that a single number cannot capture.
Professor Tian, it's always so good to see you
during
this year's 2 sessions.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. I hope to see you again next year.
This is World Insight. Still to come, China's competitive edge in providing renewable power worldwide. How can tech innovation lead to advanced solar kits? From the chairman of the world's leading solar supplier, LONGi, next. Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. China will double down on green projects while actively engaging in climate governance this year, according to the 2025 Government Work Report. That means aiding a clean energy transition for both developed and emerging markets, especially the most vulnerable global south countries. China has world's largest and fastest growing renewable energy industries. Among them, solar power is one of the most efficient. Yet, the solar panel industry seeks to keep its competitive edge with constant innovation, with fiercer local competition and volatile global markets. So what's the best way to stay competitive? On that, I asked LONGi chairman Bao Shenzhong. Mr. Zhong, good to see you. As a leader of a leading company working on solar panel, how are you dealing with the hyper-competitive reality in China on solar panel industry?
在光伏领域，中国的光伏企业之间的竞争
In the photovoltaic field, the competition among Chinese enterprises is very fierce. We find our way out through scientific and technological innovation. Since last year, we have launched a new technology product relying on the high efficiency and high quality of BC technology. We have brought it to the market quickly. This product is popular with customers around the world. We always invest in a product that must have a long life cycle. LONGi has a principle called no lead, no expansion. We will not produce the same product as everyone else because it may be quickly iterated away by the next generation of products. If we start to produce the next generation of products when everyone is producing this generation of products and wait until the end when everyone learns to produce the next generation of products, there will be a period of time in between. And by the time the current generation of products is gone, we'll be able to stretch the life cycle of our investment to a long period of time. And then the investment efficiency of the enterprise will be better. So that's why LONGi has always insisted on technological innovation to ensure that it has a forward-looking vision of the future and products that adapt to future technology.
科技创新，保证自己有对未来的前瞻性判断。有适应未来技术的这种产品。
China has managed to achieve its goal 6 years ahead of its original plan. Non-fossil fuel related energy coming from solar, from wind. And meanwhile, we also see internationally things are getting more complex with the United States decided to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, and also the Trump administration talking about drill, baby drill. So how much appetite, Mr. Zhong, does China still have for renewable energy, in which solar is a big component?
我觉得中国的绿色转型在加速。
I think China's green transition is speeding up, and each year the government sets higher goals than the previous year. In 2025, the government work report has a clear description of key tasks this year, the ninth of which explicitly states that we need to cut carbon emissions, slash pollution, pursue green development, and realize a comprehensive green transition of the national economy. It can be seen that China's green transition has been included in the important directions and tasks of China's economic development every year. The Chinese government is firm in the green transition, which has a faster pace, and it has launched a lot of policies. On the one hand, it is because China's renewable energy manufacturing industry or renewable energy technology can support China's energy transition, and it does not require too high transition costs, and it can also help the growth of new industries. So the government is happy to see the transition, and China's energy transition will also realize energy independence, since China is still relying on imports of large quantities of oil and gas. But with the development of renewable energy, it will realize energy independence. This means that China has not only responded to global climate change, but also set a benchmark for renewable energy transition worldwide. And at the same time, achieved energy independence and also fostered the development of its own renewable energy technology and renewable energy manufacturing industry. It is a multi-purpose thing, and the government clearly sees the benefits that the energy transition can bring to China.
政府很清晰地看到了这个转型能够给中国带来的好处。
These might be wonderful directions. However, they all take further investment. What do you think on that front, the role of the government and the role of industries like yours?
过去我们的能源体系，比如说电网体系，它整个的管理都是以化石能源为基础的。
In the past, our energy system, such as the grid system, its entire management is based on fossil fuel. When we transformed, we found there were many problems. For example, renewable energy has an intermittent problem. This intermittency needs to have some storage or some other energy adjustment, and then to make the power grid stable. And these storage and adjustment also have costs. But now we see the other side of the coin. With advances in solar and wind power technology, the cost of power generation is decreasing. Today, in most areas of China, photovoltaic and wind power generation costs have been lower than coal power, making room for energy storage and grid adjustment. This year, China has also introduced a new policy to allow renewable energy trading tariffs. But these trading tariffs are above the cap. That is, the highest trading tariffs cannot be higher than coal tariffs, which means the price of renewable energy is lower than the price of coal. So, the price of renewable energy is lower. It lets out of the costs to be used for energy storage and grid adjustment. It does not significantly raise the cost for end users, and it will support your renewable energy to continue expanding in scale.
然后来支持可再生能源持续扩大规模。
I know your company has partner companies or has sole proprietorships all over the world. How do you see such a change in the global north and the global south at the moment?
首先呢，我还是为我所从事这个行业感到自豪哈。
First, I'm proud of the industry I work in, and I think we've given the world a solution to climate change, and we've been able to move away from fossil fuels at the lowest possible cost. So we're seeing solar energy being used around the world. But as solar energy continues to grow, we're also seeing a lot of countries looking to develop their own solar manufacturing industry. We also see that it is due to the continuous efforts of Chinese solar enterprises, so that solar power has become so attractive. Today, in the vast majority of countries and regions around the world, Chinese solar companies are very popular. They use Chinese solar products to make it possible to quickly use very cheap, clean energy.
这个地区能够快速的用上这种很便宜的清洁能源。
But it's different, isn't it? I mean, for example, in the United States, some of the components key for solar panel has been exerted with higher tariffs. As a result, the cost of production will be higher. What does that mean for you when you are operating your partnership enterprise in the United States?
现在呢，应该说美国的太阳能产业呢是比较特殊的哈。
The solar industry in the U.S. is relatively special because both the Biden administration and the Trump administration have hoped to boost U.S. solar manufacturing. Currently, U.S. manufacturing costs are far higher than those in China, Southeast Asia, and many other countries. To attract solar manufacturing to the U.S., the government has taken two approaches. The first one is to enact the Inflation Reduction Act. The second one is to impose tariffs on photovoltaic products from multiple countries. These policies have caused U.S. market prices to be substantially higher than global averages. In my view, the combined effect of these policies has impacted the development of America's solar industry and increased costs. Nevertheless, as a single market, the U.S. has maintained its position as the world's second largest solar market for consecutive years. This demonstrates a strong American demand for large-scale solar deployment and welcomes solar energy adoption. So I believe if the U.S. could further push for free trade and cut solar power costs, it would achieve greater energy transition, solar deployment, and meeting local energy needs while possessing broader market potential.
那么美国呢，我相信在能源转型上面呢，或者说在布置太阳能方面，这个满足美国的能源需求方面，会有一个更大的发展，会有一个更大的市场。
What about in Europe? We know there are dynamic discussions about the related policies in Europe on green energy. What do you think is the most important directions that you need to focus on now?
应该说欧洲近10年来吧，一直在讨论。
Over the past decades, Europe has been looking to develop photovoltaic manufacturing. But unlike the US, which is a single country, the EU is made of many member states, leading to changing support policies for solar energy. So we have been actively engaging with European companies to address the diverse demands of these nations, while maintaining communication with national governments to explore conditions conducive to developing solar manufacturing in Europe. Accordingly, we remain fully prepared to adapt our strategies based on specific policy outcomes. Ultimately, the feasibility hinges on concrete EU policies. Currently, Europe still benefits from accessing inexpensive solar products. Should it pursue local manufacturing, the first challenge will inevitably be the rise in solar product prices. We will adjust our strategies based on policy changes.
会上升，所以我们会根据它政策的变化来决定我们应该如何做。
The Global South countries have been enjoying tremendously the green energy, especially poor nations, reliable, cheaper, and sustainable source. However, how much potential is still there in terms of market size?
在这个全球南方呢，我觉得太阳能给我了更多的这个。
As you mentioned, in the Global South, I believe solar energy has given me a profound sense of achievement. While regions like Europe, the US, and China all have energy transition demands, But the global south, particularly the Middle East and Africa, has had the most tangible transformations through solar power. Solar energy directly changes their people's lives and destinies in these areas. For example, in a rural African village where people once relied entirely on rain-fed agriculture, droughts could devastate crops and lead to hunger. By providing solar-powered products such as solar power pumps costing less than $10,000 to install, we enable communities to access groundwater irrigation. This simple system transforms vast tracts of arid land into fertile farmland, ensuring crop yields even during droughts. Witnessing these outcomes reaffirms the profound meaning of our work. In these regions, solar energy delivers concrete, visible benefits that basically alter livelihoods. I firmly believe these areas will not follow the fossil fuel-dominated paths taken by Europe, China, Japan, or the US. Renewable energy has become sufficiently affordable for them to leapfrog traditional energy systems. Instead, they will directly adopt renewables to drive economic development and improve living standards.
他们会直接用再生能源来去发展他们的经济，改善他们的生活。
Many believe AI is going to be a great tool for many industries. And what about in your field? Do you see there's going to be some directional adjustments?
我觉得在光伏领域呢，人工智能。
I believe artificial intelligence can play significant roles in the photovoltaic industry, and these applications, in fact, are already being carried out. In scientific research, AI demonstrates value in two primary directions. On the one hand, AI enables extensive material screening and data analysis, significantly speeding up technological innovation. It assists researchers by automating complex and experimental design and result interpretation. On the other hand, AI can help cut production costs and improve product consistency. Our company has conducted extensive trials in these areas. For instance, our Jiaxing factory, recognized by the World Economic Forum as a lighthouse factory and the only such facility in the global photovoltaic industry, has integrated advanced digitalization and smart technologies. These help enhance the product quality of factory production and improve its response speed.
它的这个制造的成本。
And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Xuan on behalf of the team. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.